What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Today we're going to be talking about the Bastion pirate ship, day and night maps, and a whole lot more. For those of you new to the Respawn, here's how it works. I get asked a ton of questions all the time. I can't make a full video on every topic, so I take a bunch of the questions, put them together, and then we have the Respawn series. I do want to point out that some of you guys keep asking the same questions over and over that have already been answered in previous videos. So I suggest going back in the playlist and check out those other videos because most of the content there doesn't really get outdated, so you'll probably find a lot of the answers that you're wondering in those older videos. Couple of big questions, then the speed round. First one, I would like for the maps to change from day to night. It could change how you play the game. Thoughts? The first thing that jumps out is that first capture point on Gibraltar. The defending team essentially has to stare into the sun, so it actually makes it a little more difficult for the defenders to deal with anybody who's up on that high ground. Now, if you were to make that a nighttime map, then that disadvantage for the defenders would just simply go away, and that would be a pretty big deal. Now, this sounds really cool, having day and night versions of the map. When they added some of the capture the flag maps, for example, Lijiang Tower had a bunch of different kind of little variations on the map, and they made it daytime, and people were like, hey, why can't you do this for everything, and this and that sort of deal. And Blizzard actually responded to it, and they said that it's not really as easy as you would think, because anytime they're making a map, they have a certain amount of stuff that they can put in there, a certain amount of processing that they expect that the computers to be able to handle, or the consoles to be able to handle. One of the examples was with Eichenwald. They wanted to start the map further down the mountainside and have it actually be in a forest, but as they were making it, they found out that it just had too much stuff in it. Every single tree had a certain number of branches, every branch had a certain number of leaves, and it was just way too much stuff for the computers and for the consoles to actually be able to handle and render and all that sort of stuff. And even things like lighting do take up a good amount of resources because the shadows that are cast, depending on where the light is, how bright it is, all that sort of stuff. So it's not like you could just say, we're gonna switch off the lights and now all of a sudden it's a nighttime map. It doesn't really work like that. Although it would be really cool to have different variations of day and nighttime, it takes significantly more effort than just kind of making things darker or making things lighter. Next up, why is Junkertown the only map where pirate ship and other weird comps are run? What separates that map from other payload maps or just other maps in general? So in case you don't know, pirate ship is when you have a Bastion and an Orisa on the payload. Usually you're going to have a Mercy to heal, damage boost, and even res the Bastion if needed. And then you might have some other stuff like a Reinhardt, another secondary healer, and whatever you have for your extra DPS. But the main thing is Bastion and Orisa on the payload. Now, why does this work so well on Junkertown and not the other payload maps? Because Junkertown is wide open, especially that first point. So when you first come out of the attacker spawn, there's a little bit of cover with the buildings. But once you get up to that middle point of that first section, it is just a gigantic open space. And that is where Bastion excels, because the defending team cannot possibly get close to the Bastion in order to deal with him. And the rest of the map is also decently open as well. So again, it's very difficult for the defenders to actually get close enough to deal with the Bastion. Compare this to other payload maps where there's lots of objects and structures that will block the line of sight. And there's lots of narrow passageways or streets, so the Bastion just doesn't have the space he needs in order to be effective. What can happen is the defenders simply wait off to the side, out of line of sight, and then when the payload comes by, all 6 of them attack the payload and just completely destroy the Bastion before he can really do anything. Moving on to the speed round, what character do you main? I don't have one. I play something different every single season. Generally, it's whatever character happens to be newest. Who's the least buggy hero? Probably Soldier 76. I really can't think of the last time he had any major character issues. I mean, it's a pretty simple hero. Do you think that in the hero info screens, they should have damage healing values for each ability? Why or why not? Yes, absolutely. However, Blizzard doesn't like it, and they've actually talked about it in the past. This was quite a while ago, so it's entirely possible they could change their mind at some point, but their general idea was they didn't want people to have to worry about min-maxing. Like, they didn't want you to look at McCree and see that he did a certain amount of damage per hit, and then compare that to Soldier and he does a certain amount of damage per hit, and then trying to figure out, well, this is the exact damage per second for this hero versus the exact damage per second of this hero. They didn't want that. But I think it's kind of funny because they won't tell us any of this stuff in-game, but whenever they have patch notes for an update or something, they'll say, we've increased such and such hero from 19 damage to 20 damage. So they'll give us tiny bits and pieces when they have patch notes and when they have patch updates, but they just don't tell us the regular stuff. It doesn't make any sense. So yes, they absolutely should, and I don't know why they're still not doing it. What should they change about Mei? Currently, Mei is only being used because Hammond is being used. As soon as Hammond falls out of the meta, Mei will also be thrown into the dustbin as well. She's currently only good for countering him, and that's it. So the problem with Mei is that she's way too niche of a character. She's in the damage spot, but she doesn't actually do a lot of damage. I think Blizzard needs to make a decision. They either need to make her more of a damage character, or what I would prefer to see is making her into an actual tank. I mean, they could just give her some ice abilities to kind of beef up her total health pool and stuff, and that would be fine. Do you think they will ever add any of the Diva team as playable characters in Overwatch? It's entirely possible? Maybe? I know this is like the big thing ever since that animated short came out, but I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. What is your favorite milkshake flavor? Probably chocolate. Do you think Blizzard will ever include the option to show damage numbers in the game? For instance, the way Quake Champions does. I'm sure also people are also familiar with the way Fortnite numbers pop up. I don't think they will ever add that to the game for the simple fact that there's already tons of stuff cluttering the screen, all kinds of abilities and particle effects and all that, so I really don't think they're going to ever add numbers like that. Do you think there are many cheaters? Because it's pretty easy to find a cheat if you know where to look. I don't think there are that many cheaters in Overwatch. There's actually probably very few. I've only ever run into a couple. The bigger issue is with people that are actively throwing their games. Blizzard needs to start really stepping up and doing something about that. But as far as the cheaters go, Blizzard already has a really good anti-cheat program, and it's pretty good at detecting who's doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Like, you don't even need to report most of the people that are cheating. They automatically get detected and hit by that software. What is the worst Overwatch map in your opinion? Temple of Anubis, without a doubt. The worst map in the entire game. Do you think Junkrat deals too much damage? No. Is Doomfist in a good spot? Thank you for the comment. Doomfist is currently viable because the whole thing is disrupt meta, and again, Hammond is in it, and that's why Doomfist is being used a lot more. So I have a feeling that, again, once Hammond kind of leaves the scene, Doomfist is going to kind of go with him as well. The main problem with Doomfist right now is he still has a tremendous amount of bugs. You asked for the least buggy character. In the previous question someone asked, well, the most buggy character is Doomfist, so they need to fix that stuff. And once they fix that stuff, then they can look at, well, do they need to buff the character or nerf it or whatever. But first, they just need to get it working right. Did you know that the training bots in the practice range say hello to you? Yes, if you wave at them, they'll wave back. Do you think Blizzard will ever bring the huge Res Mercy back? No. The old version of Mercy was garbage. She was completely useless in the upper brackets and was never used. The problem with it was that rather than using the ultimate to win the fight, you use the ultimate to simply reset the fight. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You're better off using a Lucio or a Moira or Zenyatta or whatever to help your team survive and then win that fight, rather than just waiting for the rest of your team to die and then starting over again. That's why it was never used, and it could be useful in the lower brackets, but for the upper brackets of the game, it was just garbage, and I don't think they're ever going to bring it back. Can you suggest 3 heroes to solo climb in Silver? Reinhardt, Junkrat, Mercy. Do you think that Rialto is balanced at the moment, or does it need changes? It is not balanced. It is way too heavily defender favored. I actually talked about this quite a bit in a previous video. You can go and check that out if you want. Basically, I think the number is only 42% of the attackers end up winning. So it's really bad. If you look at a lot of the other maps, they're like, 49-51 in terms of defender, attacker, win-loss kind of deal. But for Rialto, it's really bad. Attackers rarely win. If you could change Orissa's ultimate, what would you replace instead of it? I've talked about this in the past. Every other tank and bruiser in the game has a zoning or crowd control ultimate, and then Orisa just has damage boost for some reason. So what I would do is I would change it to an immobilize. Basically, when she puts the bongo down, it would affect every enemy in a very large area and immediately root them in place. So imagine that they all got hit with a Junkrat trap at the same time. They can still attack, they can use some abilities, but they can't move. The difference between this and like Zarya's ultimate, for example, is Zarya has a very, very small area of effect, so all the enemies need to be grouped up in order for it to work. Whereas when Orisa puts the bongo down, this would go out like 20-30 meters in all directions, and all the enemies would just instantly stop moving. Do you think that the hero gallery should have any more changes? Yes, I would like for the option to change what the background is. Why was Bastion's passive added? Because the character was complete garbage, and even at this point, he's still pretty much garbage, with the exception of the rare use in the pirate ship. How to get loot boxes faster. Play quick play in a small group. You get the XP bonus, and the matches are pretty fast. Have you enjoyed the All-Star weekend so far? Are you happy with the results? I have not watched even a single minute of the All-Star weekend. That's going to be it for this week. Remember, a lot of those common questions that you guys ask have already been answered in previous videos, so go and check those out. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.